Listen, Latinos who, I keep waiting for Latinos who voted for him. A lot of them, in places like South Florida where I live, to feel some sort of remorse when you see that, these Venezuelans who are part of our community, who we know, who are our friends, are getting hunted down, when we see that our police departments in South Florida are signing cooperation agreements to be deputized as ICE. When we, I keep thinking, okay,
this is going to be
going to change the way folks, they're gleeful. Everybody I know who voted for Trump is gleeful and supportive of everything he's doing.
So Anna Navarro and all of her never-Trumper friends and all of her leftist colleagues, they don't understand why people still support Donald Trump. I mean, after all, he's out there doing exactly what he said he was going to do on the campaign trail. It was no secret. We knew this was coming. But of course, to Anna Navarro, how in the world can the Latinos that supported Donald Trump still support him after he's been deporting violent, criminal, illegal aliens? I mean, this is just beyond her, because she doesn't understand, apparently, that the biggest group that was impacted by all of the criminal, violent, illegal alien gangs, etc., were the Latino communities. They were the ones out there being the most victimized. So of course they'd be happy to rid their communities of these awful people. All right. But this is something she will never understand, because she's gone completely away from the Republican Party, completely away from reason, and now is essentially just another rabid leftist. And of course, now they're completely fixated on the flights and due process. So let's see all of this addressed by Tom Homan in tremendous fashion. But before we get to his clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Or how do your people in the field determine that somebody is a gang member?
Look, there's various methods. No, I've noticed in the media this week, a lot of them don't have criminal histories. Well, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories. Just like a lot of terrorists in this world, they're not in any terrorist database, right? We only know the information what's in databases based on, for instance, most terrorists we arrest that are identified by the U.S. government are later identified through a Title III investigation or through an undercover operation. They're not in any terrorist screening screening database. We know that. A lot of gang members, I started as a cop in 1984. Many gang members don't have a criminal history. So we have a count of social media. We have a count of surveillance techniques. We have a count on sworn statements from other gang members. We have a count on, wiretaps and Title III. So everything involved with criminal investigations come into play. So just because someone hasn't been arrested and charged with a crime yet, doesn't mean they're a member of a gang.
But how do you? I mean, what we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang. Or either, Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where was Laken Ronnie's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
On the subway, where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists. Number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work by ICE officers. Matter of fact, 2 days after that flight took off, I even had a discussion with the acting director of ICE, and he reiterated that every Venezuelan on that plane was a known member of the TDA. So a lot of officers, a lot of criminal investigators, special agents who've done this for decades, looked at the intelligence information, the criminal investigation information, all the various social media and surveillance and government records and public records, and they are confident that they're all members of the TDA. And I'm not surprised that a member of the family saying they're not a member of the TDA, but they were given due process according to the laws on the books. See, that's the difference between the Trump administration and Biden administration. We're actually using the laws on the books to enforce immigration law and secure the border at the highest level it's ever been. The Biden administration not only ignored the law, They violated law, like District Court and District 5 said that not only are they violating law, they're actually ignoring the law altogether.
So, of course, now the big narrative among the left is that all of these people being rounded up and deported, they're not all gang members, right? They're not all violent criminals. They're actually doctors and lawyers, people that should be in this country. And it's like, not so fast, right? As Tom Homan points out, how do they know who these people are? How are they finding them? How are they rounding them up? They're going off of police reports. They're going off of investigations. They're going off of, yes, online activity of most likely these criminals posting themselves, doing crimes, sitting there with guns, showing off their grills, etc. Okay, this is how they're finding all of the people and identifying. So of course the family's going to come out and say, please don't deport Johnny, he's such a good boy. Despite all of the police investigations, despite all of the man hours looking into this, and despite apparently all of the warrants for arrest for people entering the country illegally, and then on top of that doing criminal illegal acts. And how in the world did we get to this point? Because the Democrats did not account for the rule of law actually taking place. They opened the floodgates and allowed everyone in for one reason, and that of course was to increase their voter base, which is still something they're after, as is seen on this segment over here from MSNBC.
Well, we could eliminate all voter registration laws. See, when Democrats get in charge, we try to protect voting rights. We don't make voting easier. Now, I'm all for voter eligibility requirements. We might disagree about what those requirements should be, but I'm going to say that there should be an age limit to vote. I might say 16, you might say 18, but I'm not going to say 8. Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to agree that there should be voter eligibility requirements. But once you're eligible, why do you have to pre-register? Why is that even a thing? It wasn't a thing in this country at the founding. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1787. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1821. We only started having voter registration, generally speaking, after the Civil War. Why do you think that is? It's because a bunch of freed African slaves were migrating up north, and all of a sudden New York was like, we need some registration up in here, right? A bunch of immigrants from Europe, mainly Ireland and Italy, were coming to New York. People were like, oh, we need some registration in here. If you're eligible to vote, you should be automatically registered to vote, and that is how they do it everywhere else but us. Everywhere else but us either has automatic registration or some other form of forced registration for everybody, so that you don't have this disconnect between eligible voters and registered voters. That's the first law in the book that we could change. And it's to see how that's different than just saying we have to protect voting rights. No. We don't have to protect voting rights. We have to expand voting rights so that the 90 million people that sat on the couch and sat out this last election between democracy and fascism, so that maybe they have a little bit of an easier time to get up off the couch and come participate in the democracy.
Right.
So here's Elie Mystal, and here's something he apparently doesn't understand, right? Every other country in the world doesn't have registration. Well, guess what they do have? Voter ID. They understand that fraud is rampant without voter ID. But in this country, Democrats and people like Elie here want to dig in their heels every time we raise up the simple fact that, yes, voter fraud is a thing. And the way we can stop it most effectively is by simply requiring an ID to vote. But no, we can't have that. Instead, we have to have massive mail-in voting schemes. All right. And that's something else that Elie doesn't understand, right? How in the world could we expand voting rights? How could we have made it easier without giving every single person a ballot that all they had to do was fill out and drop into the mailbox? Okay. If people don't want to participate, we cannot force them. But of course, now they want us to get rid of the one thing that we even have in this country that is even close to some type of integrity. And that, of course, is the registration. This was all started because of the black slaves being freed after the Civil War. Or was it started because we recognize that there is a lot of fraud going on in the nation, a lot of confusion? We want to ensure that people are not voting multiple times in the same city, right? In the different precincts, in the different states. So as our population expands and gets bigger and we can't identify who every single person is, it's a really good idea to have some type of mechanism to keep track of who is actually voting and who has already voted. Like, for instance, voter ID, as I said before. But this was the whole scam. This was the scheme to allow wide open borders, to allow millions upon millions of people coming into this country, and then somehow magically they all become voters. And we've talked about how that occurs in the past. So either way, the left is still unhinged. They don't understand that this is exactly what people voted for. We wanted rule of law, not madness and craziness all over this nation. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.